A very good morning, my dear friends. Today, let's start with a little story. One day, two frogs were hopping around when suddenly they fell down into a pot of cream. Both the frogs struggled immensely to try and escape from that pot, but nothing was working out. Now, one of these frogs was an optimistic soul, while the other one was a very gloomy one. And so this gloomy frog began to cry out, "This is it! This is the end! We're gonna die over here!" And so the gloomy frog gave up, flung up his legs, and said goodbye. But the optimistic frog said, "Maybe I can't get out, but I won't give up. I'll just swim around till my entire strength is spent, and then I will die a content soul." And so the optimistic frog bravely swam around in any way he could. As this optimistic frog continued to swim around the pot, he was actually churning the cream, and eventually the cream started rising up as fluffy butter. And this helped the optimistic frog reach the top of the pot, and thus he escaped from what could have been his doom. Dear friends, in our own lives, we would have seen so many such similar instances. We may be like the frogs who have fallen into pots of financial debt, into pots of complicated relationships, or even pots of unemployment. So many complicated pots. In these situations, we have two options in front of us. Either, like the gloomy frog, we can give up and just call it a day. Or we can choose to be like the optimistic frog. Even in the face of adversity, we can choose to continue to fight and move forward, to continue to place our trust in God's plan for us. In Jeremiah chapter 29 verse 11 we read, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." This is a very important promise of the Lord that we must remember as we continue to fight and live through our daily struggles. We must continue to pray, we must continue to hope, but most importantly, we must give God full freedom to work on our hearts as we continue to swim and grow through the adversity that we're facing. Some days, as we face these adversities, we might feel hopeless. We might feel like our prayers are not being heard. Dear friends, these are the most important moments where we must remember that God is really close to our hearts. For any plant to flourish, the gardener must prune. Or another example is the pencils that we use. For us to be able to write with a sharp pencil, we must sharpen the pencil using a sharpener before we're able to use it. Likewise, our lives too need refinement. It needs pruning. And so most times, these pots of trials and despair that we fall into, God will use to help us to grow closer to Him, and also to make us strong enough, or rather to prepare us to receive the blessings that He wishes to give us in the future. Maybe a tough boss will teach us to become a good manager to your employees one day. Or when you experience heartbreak, that'll teach you to give consolation and a good listening ear to a friend in need. Dear friends, we are all broken. God knows that very well. And all He asks of us is to trust Him and to entrust our brokenness to Him. Because through our brokenness, through the cracks and holes within our soul, God can spread His eternal light to the other faithful children of His around us. No matter how broken, no matter how much in despair we are, dear friends, God only asks one thing of us: to continue to swim, to continue to persevere and pray, to continue to always place your trust and your faith in Him. And one day, the cream that we are stuck in, we will churn enough to make it into fluffy butter. And thus, God will raise us out of that pot and give us a brighter tomorrow.